From NPR and WBUR, I'm Tanya Mosley.
And I'm Peter O'Dowd. This is Here and Now. One of Amazon's senior managers is suing the company for alleged racial and gender discrimination. Charlotte Newman says she was hired at a lower level than she was qualified for, that she was denied a promotion, and that she was sexually assaulted by a former boss. Charlotte Newman joins us now, along with her lawyer, Douglas Wigdor. And first, we should note that Amazon is a financial supporter of NPR. Charlotte and Douglas, welcome to Here and Now.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
And before we get into some of the claims you're making here, first, what kind of work did you do for the company while these things were happening?
Right. I started in global corporate affairs within the Amazon Web Services public policy team. My role was being a subject matter expert on financial services policy, and then to hold workshops and be an external kind of evangelist for the company in various markets to talk about the power of cloud, how it democratizes security, for example, and democratizes innovation, and what that means from a financial services vantage point.
So you describe something called downleveling, which means you get hired for a job that is at a lower level than the one that you applied for and thought you were getting. And you also say that this is more common for black women at Amazon. Tell me more about that, why you say that.
Right. So that could mean you interview at a director level and then you're brought in as a senior manager, or you interview as a senior manager and you're brought in as a manager. And what happened to me specifically is that I interviewed for a senior manager role that was international, and then was offered a manager role that was solely to cover the United States. And then once I started, within a matter of months, it was clear that the real intention was for me to cover America's wide work, in that I was given an international portfolio.
But your pay was less.
My pay was less, and my title was not commensurate with the work
I
that
see.
I was
And so
doing.
what did that cost you in terms of your career and your livelihood?
The cost is manifold. You know, there can be a difference of hundreds of thousands of dollars in year one alone, because that difference is in the form of equity, because the compensation includes not only a base salary, but also equity. Over time, the actual amount can grow pretty dramatically.
And can you describe why you say it's more common for black women at Amazon than anyone else?
Right. As soon as I joined, I began to hear anecdotal stories from other black employees. There was a pattern, essentially, where employees were interviewed and then offered lower roles. The reasons that they were given for the down leveling were often highly subjective. People would talk about fit and executive presence. You know, it doesn't seem fair to me or other employees of color to say, well, you know, scope changes can happen at any point.
On the issue of race, you say also in this lawsuit that your first boss at Amazon Web Services used racial stereotypes with you, saying that you were too direct, intimidating, or just scary. How common is that kind of language?
From him, it was quite common, and it started within months of me joining the company. One of the things that was really harmful about hearing that from a manager was that it really undermined my sense of confidence in my work and in myself. And Amazon is not it's a hard charging culture. It's a culture that relies on many leadership principles. One of them is disagree and commit, which basically encourages employees to disagree even with executives and press if they think that they're right about something. Day to day, you know, friends and family say I'm, you know, relatively mild-mannered, and so it seemed both hypocritical, but it also seemed just quite odd given the feedback that I'd received in every other role in my career to date.
And Charlotte, were the comments that you received ever more blatant and less coded than calling you intimidating or scary or too direct?
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I think happened is that the managers on the team created an environment that lowered the bar in terms of treatment and things that were said overall. A colleague said that I looked like a gorilla because of the jacket that I was wearing at that point. There was another colleague at an offsite who said she thought it would be fun if I took a photo with the jambalaya wine bottle in an effort, in my opinion, to kind of caricature me. And so there were definitely things that were far more pointed.
And it was more than that, according to your lawsuit. There was a pattern of sexual harassment, even a sexual assault by one of your bosses. who was investigated and then fired. But all of this had been going on for years. So what changed that you decided that you needed to get a lawyer, to report this, to do something about it?
One thing that happened last year in 2020 was there was a general reckoning in the country on racial equity because of the killings of Ahmaud Arbery, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. And it caused me to really think deeply about the things that I had remained silent about. Outwardly, the company was supporting Black Lives Matter, for example, but internally, I knew that that wasn't showing up as it applied to employees, particularly Black employees.
Well, to your point about what the company says publicly, we reached out to Amazon, and a spokesperson gave us a statement that said, in part, "We do not tolerate discrimination or harassment of any kind. We work hard to make Amazon a company where our Black employees and people of all backgrounds feel included, respected, and want to grow their careers." The statement then goes on to say that any situation where even one of our employees is feeling excluded or unsupported is unacceptable. When you hear that, what do you think? Does Amazon foster a diverse and inclusive work culture?
I don't think the company is fostering that kind of culture currently. There are a number of things that I think Amazon could be doing, and these are things that I've asked for. One is, I really think the company needs to conduct a company-wide assessment of leveling total compensation and promotion. Other companies have done this. Salesforce, for example, took this step years ago. And I believe that the company should eliminate downleveling within individual loops. It just shouldn't be the case that a victim of sexual harassment and assault can come forward and not be protected. There should be real safeguards put in place in an actual program so that employees who experience sexual harassment or discrimination has some kind of redress.
Let's bring your lawyer in. Douglas Wigdor, you still there?
Yep, still here.
So I just want to get your input here. You've worked on a lot of pretty famous cases in the Me Too movement, including representing several women in the Harvey Weinstein sexual abuse cases, 20 former Fox News employees in lawsuits against that network. How does Charlotte's case compare? Does what's allegedly going on at Amazon rise to the same level?
It absolutely does. I mean, there's systemic discrimination based on race here. And we're seeing that from other people who are contacting us on a very high level, national level. Charlotte is very modest, but I mean, she had such a distinguished career working for Senator Cory Booker, other Congress people. She is someone who Amazon should embrace, someone who should have been brought in at the correct level, someone who should be promoted, someone who should have been protected and not sexually harassed and sexually assaulted. And unfortunately, Amazon is so focused on their bottom line and their customer experience and not their employee experience. It really is astonishing given Amazon's presence in corporate America as one of the largest employers and one of the largest companies. They should really be leading by example. And Jeff Bezos and Andy Jassy really should be looking inward now and doing the sort of things that Charlotte has articulated very poignantly, I think, to make Amazon the leader in corporate America the way it treats its employees.
Charlotte, I'm sure this experience has been very challenging for you, to say the least. People might be wondering why you still work at Amazon.
It has been incredibly difficult. I just don't see why my career would have to suffer. And it just, to me, seems grossly unfair that I would have to leave and that the perpetrators of the acts against me are allowed to stay. I'm taking a stand against a longstanding practice that I just do not think is fair. And I hope that this changes the company's policy so that other women and individuals like myself don't have to go through the same things, and that there's a real shift in the way that sexual harassment survivors are treated going forward.
Charlotte Newman is a senior manager at Amazon Web Services. She's suing the company for alleged racial and gender discrimination. We've also been speaking with her lawyer, Douglas Wigdor. Charlotte, Douglas, thanks for speaking with us.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.